All right, it is 7:02, and I'm going to call to order the Wednesday, December 10th regular meeting of the CCSD59 Board of Education. If I could have Ms. Eddie call the roll.
Bookler?
Present.
Zach?
Present.
Eddie present. Johnson?
Here.
Kitzinger?
Present.
Notini? Here. Chesney absent.
Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next is comments and suggestions from the public. Anybody here wish to address the board this evening? Okay, if not, we can move on to the public hearing for our tax levy. Okay. Do I have to open the meeting, Wilson? Okay. All right, so I just need a motion to open the public hearing for the 2025 tax levy.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. It is 7:03 p.m. Have a roll call vote?
Bookler?
Aye.
Zach?
Aye.
Eddie, I. Johnson?
Aye.
Kitzinger?
Aye.
Notini?
Aye.
Chesney absent.
All right, the meeting is open. What do we do here, Mosin? Do we just wait? Anybody want to comment, or do you?
Essentially, all you're asking is anyone over here has any questions?
Okay.
Then you close it, and then after the audit presentation, because he's on time and money,
Yeah.
we'll do the presentation.
Okay. Anybody have questions? You can save them for later.
If there's any questions from the audience.
Are there any questions from the audience? Okay. All right, if we could get a motion to close the public hearing for the 2025 levy?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
I could roll call vote.
Sure. I don't know where to put it. Do you know where I put it to close it?
It's right below.
Is there a second resolution?
Okay. All right. Bookler?
Yes.
Zach?
Aye.
Eddie, I. Johnson?
Aye.
Kinzinger?
Aye.
Notini? Aye. Chesney absent.
All right, the public hearing is closed. Next, we have the annual report from Baker Tilly, or annual audit.
Hello, my name is Joe Lightcap. I'm Managing Director at Baker Tilly. We have a couple of reports that I'll be going over tonight at a very high level. Feel free to stop me anytime if you have any questions.
Yep. Rookie mistake. Sorry. So as I was saying, I have two reports that I'll be going over tonight at a very high level. Feel free to stop me at any time if you have any questions about what I'm saying or want to dig in deeper to anything that you've read in the audit results or the audit report. First off, I would like to thank the business office for everything that they do to get prepared for us to come out. It's a lot of work even before we're out here looking at all the records to get ready for us and make sure that the financial records and trial balances are in great shape. And when we come out, they are. And then we ask a bunch of questions and ask for a bunch of supporting documentation. And the business office is always great about getting us what we need in a very timely and thorough manner. I'll start off with the audited financial statements. This is an annual comprehensive financial report. As the name suggests, it's a comprehensive document. It is more comprehensive than what is required by accounting standards. It has additional narrative information in the beginning, the transmittal letter, and it has some 10-year historical information in the back that gives you a good trend information over the last 10 years to see how the district's been doing. The financial results, the Illinois State Board of Education has a profile score that they take your financial information and they give you a score and they give you the status. As you've been in the past, we're estimating that the fiscal year 25 audit results, or financial results, will result in a recognition status of 4.0, which is the highest number you can get on that score. So the things that ISB thinks are important for your finances, you're hitting all those metrics. A few pages in the financial statements to discuss. Roman numeral page 13. This begins the independent auditor's report. This is our opinion on the district's financial statements. We have once again issued a clean or unmodified opinion on the district's financial statements. The high level of assurance you can get from your outside auditor, and states that the information within is reasonable in all material respects and can be reasonably relied upon by an outside user. There were no new accounting policies adopted during the year, so the financial statements that you see are in pretty much the same form and function as you've seen the last couple of years. The numbers, of course, change annually. The presentation of the financial statements are consistent with the prior year. Roman numeral 16 is the management's discussion and analysis. I always like to point this out because this is really the story behind the numbers written from management's perspective. It's more of a plain English document, piece of this document that just kind of gives you a good high-level understanding of the financial results for the year with a comparison to the prior year. So if you had 15 minutes to spend, that's where I would direct you to go. Page 1 of the report after the Roman numeral pages is the statement of net position followed by the statement of activities. This is really the one time of the year where you see all of the district's funds in one spot and all your very long-term perspective financial reporting. So this has all your capital assets, cost of all your buildings and equipment, depreciated to current values, as well as your long-term debt, including bonds payables, net pension liabilities. So it really gives you a long-term perspective. And looking at how the district does over time is kind of where you want to look at this. And on the following page 2, net position increased by about $5 million. So all of the funds, this long-term perspective, this net position increased by about $5 million. We'll see in a little bit that expenditures exceeded revenues, but the pay down of the bonds and the improvements related to OPEB liabilities, your other post-employment benefit liabilities, increased your net position. We'll see a shorter term perspective in a little bit, but net position increased. There's a schedule in the back in the statistical section. I mentioned the 10-year historical trend. This net position has been increasing over the past 6 years or so. So there's been a good trend of net position increasing. Page 3 begins the fund financial statements. So pages 3 and 4 are the fund, the balance sheet. This is by fund, so more, consistent with what you've seen, what you'd see on a monthly basis, and it's a short-term perspective. Receivables are offset with deferred inflows of resources if the revenue isn't received soon enough after year end, and liabilities are only recorded when due and payable. So this is very much a short-term perspective, current assets and current liabilities. In this document, and then on page 6 and 7, is the income statement on this short-term perspective, and it results in fund balance. We look at the general fund, operations and maintenance, transportation, and IMRF. Fund balance for these funds increased by about $151,000. So you have about 9.73 months in reserves.
Just excuse us one second. Is there a way to open the audit report on this screen so we'd see it as you? Yeah, because I'm trying to follow where you're at. I can't quite see it. Okay.
So right now I'm on pages 6 and 7, which is probably 30 pages.
Yeah, it comes up different for us.
We try to fit a lot of information too on one page, so you really squint your eyes to see it. So this is the short-term income statement that I was talking about. So you have revenues and expenditures by fund. You scroll a little bit further down, you have net change in fund balance. So these first 4 columns is the general fund, operations and maintenance, transportation, and IMRF. The combination of those 4 changes was about $151,000 increase. On the following page, you have the bond and the debt service fund and the capital projects fund and life safety fund. Those 3 funds decreased. If you scroll down to the net change in fund balance, the biggest reason there is about $4.4 million in the capital projects fund. So you improved the buildings and during the year, used this $10.3 million in capital outlay, decreased the fund balance. It still has quite a bit of fund balance left for future projects, but it did go down during the year. And the second column from the right is the all funds combined that went down about $4.5 million. You can see mainly because of the debt service fund, the capital projects fund. So the previous page, your operating funds, those stayed relatively flat compared to the prior year. The rest of the financial statements, there's notes to the financial statements that goes into a lot of good detail about your capital assets, your liabilities, the increases and the decreases, any assumptions in these liabilities, just kind of to really dig into the changes in these balances year over year. Following that is budget actual schedules for all of your funds. You can see how the funds did with what you had planned at the beginning of the year to the actual results. And then the 10-year trend information that I mentioned at the back. Before I move on to the second report, I'll take a quick pause to see if there's any questions on the financial statements and the numbers for the year. The other,
I'd just like to thank you for pointing out those pages on the fund financials, like kind of showing that that's where there's so many numbers. This is where you need to look. And basically the only reason we have a deficit is because of the investment in our capital and assets.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's good.
Yeah.
One other just quick question, compared to other districts that you work on, does the audit go smoother? Does it take longer, less time?
it's a smooth, I would say your district records more of so a lot of districts will record transactions month to month on a cash basis, and then we might help them through the process of these short-term receivables to create the financial statements. Always been further along in creating those balances at the end of the year to help the audit process along.
So fewer journal entries, is that what you mean?
Correct.
For us accountants,
Yes.
that's.
Yeah.
So you're saying like for the property tax receivable, that's already recorded, you don't have to do that?
Right.
Okay,
We just have to audit it, whereas, a lot of places we're making adjustments.
you're actually
to it.
doing
Yeah.
the calculations.
Yeah,
and-
of course, anything we do, we get, the blessing of management, and they take, we'll spoiler into the next report. But it's definitely it's a good process here.
Can I ask about just creating this report?
Mhm.
Is this all internal within District 59, or are you using your own software? Do you import our numbers into your own software and then?
Yep.
Okay,
We take the district's trial balances and we import it, and then there'll be some reclassing adjustments. It's not perfect just because you don't have all the accounts that you need to prepare the financial statements, especially the long-term assets and liabilities. Those might be on an Excel schedule, and we bring them in to the report. But even some of the classifications of fund balances and things like that, or just reclassing entries for GAAP financial that just wouldn't make sense to do on your trial balances. So we do help a little bit with that.
okay, thank you.
Mhm. The other report that I have is the report insights from the 2025 audit. You don't necessarily have to go to that. I'll just kind of be talking through it a little bit. And there's nothing really exciting in there anyway, which is a good thing. This is the results of our audit. So this satisfies a few different auditing standards and our required communications to the board and those charged with governance. Those charged with governance, the board management. So it really talks about our responsibilities as your auditors, management's responsibilities for the financial reporting, that there were no significant changes to our audit plan. It discusses our areas of focus, which are your main transaction cycles, our thoughts on any significant risks of material misstatement, which are none outside of the standard areas that we're required to look at in any audit, and just our key areas of emphasis. So this is actually the AFR. I'm not sure if you have the audit results letter, but no matter. It does talk about some of the areas that we look at or consider more important, if you are interested in those things. We do provide a report on internal control related matters. So we look at the district's internal controls to determine the nature, timing, and extent of our audit procedures. We do not provide an opinion on internal controls over financial reporting, but if we see things that we feel the board should know about, or things that could potentially result in a material misstatement of the financial statements, we would include that in this letter. I'm happy to report once again that we don't have any internal control findings to report in this letter, which is very good. Again, if there were any significant, unusual transaction difficulties performing the audit, disagreements, those would be in there as well. I'm all listed out as no, none. So it's a very clean report. Good to see what you want to see in this report. Finally, we do, as I mentioned at the beginning, we work with management extensively to perform the audit, but we ultimately work for the board. Should you have any questions outside of just when I come annually to talk to you about it, anything during the year, we'd be happy to talk through those. My contact information is on the second page of this report, my email and my phone number, should you ever have any questions. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions on our audit process or the audit results. All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have our tax levy presentation.
Good evening. Before I start on the levy, I want to compliment Janet, who really spends a lot of time with the auditors. So thank you. Very fortunate to have a very rock solid team in the business office. I've yet to come in and find out somebody has a issue. They're all very positive and do a fabulous job. So thanks for the superintendent for getting the right people. So tonight we're going to be discussing one of the most important revenue for our school district is local property tax. It's close to 17% of our revenue, and it's linked to CPI. CPI is a relatively low number compared to what our expenditure growth is, so there's always a challenge. So I'm going to share with you what the basis for requesting this money is, but we cannot ever get CPI till the community approves a higher amount in form of a referendum. So we always assume that we'll be planning our financial projection based on CPI plus any new construction. So CPI has been enacted in Illinois since 1994. This year's CPI rate for requesting the levy is 2.9%. In addition to existing homeowners, if there's a new homeowner, they are not paying CPI because they're new taxpayers. They're paying whatever our tax rate is times new valuation on the property. That contributes approximately, for planning purpose, 0.6. Because CPI is not known, it's whatever is going to be given to you by the county after the tax bills have been submitted. We find that out in June normally. This time we found out close to November. So in our request, we are asking for slightly more than 0.6, because if you don't ask for it, you don't get it, and you don't want to leave money on the table. So the board, when they take action today, they'll be asking for CPI of 2.9 and 1.08% of new construction. Since our bond and interest is a relatively stable number and it doesn't grow with the CPI, the financial burden becomes less than the CPI for existing taxpayers. Now, I have to be very clear when I say less than CPI. Occasionally, you'll see a tax bill which is higher than CPI. In aggregate, the school district is capped for the total revenue. Individual homeowners may have a different appreciation level. So you could pay more than CPI, but if you're paying more than CPI, somebody's paying less than CPI. The school district will not get more than the rate of CPI from existing homeowners. This is the history of CPI. I know people don't like to look at this, but it's with you. You can take a look at it. Since inception, it's 2.4. There were some high years in the last few years, and we are at 2.9. And I think there'll be a time where I may want to drop the bars, but so far I'm able to get it on the same sheet, so I'll leave it there. Another revenue which I talked about is new construction. Here. The new construction, if you look at the left-hand side, which is table, and the right is graphic, the new construction last year was 0.55. As you can see, there are years where we getting new construction of 2%. Now, if you have a CPI of 5 and you get 2%, that's a good year. If you have a CPI of 2.9 and you have 0.55, that's challenge because salaries, benefit are all going up at a higher rate than CPI. So we always have to look for ways to be more efficient and look for ways to reduce cost, but there is a challenge in school system. We always assume the taxpayers hold us responsible and we want to be efficient, and we don't look for asking for anything more in form of a referendum unless it's the last resort. So that's not the topic over here. We just asking for the CPI increase here. We are extremely fortunate that majority of our taxpayers are industrial and commercial property owners who don't use any service from the school district. We have 41% residential owners, and out of those 41%, I would speculate 90% don't have kids in the school system. So that is one of the reasons our tax rate is low, is because we have lots of taxpayers who are not using our services. Cook County ratio is still relatively healthy. There are communities, affluent communities like Hainesdale, North Shore, 98 to 99% of the taxes are homeowners only. They don't have any shopping malls, they don't have industry, so their tax bills can be very high and those can be very challenging also. Is that the last slide? No, there should be, yeah. So that's the illustration of a tax base, and we're fortunate that we have a very solid tax base. And even though we have high enrollment, the ratio of dollars behind each child is very solid, so you don't need a very high tax rate to generate the amount of money we generate. In a year where this could be a reassessment year, so if you get a notice that your property values have gone up 10%, the way the tax cap formula works is, if the property values goes up 5% and the CPI is 2.9, then your tax rate should come down by 2.1 in aggregate. So that's how you get the benefit. But if your property is unusual and your appreciation is 15% and the average is 10, then you're paying more than CPI. So on the left-hand side of the table, we have what we received this year. The amount which is kept is $106 million. The numbers below are bond and interest. You heard me a few minutes ago saying is the bond and interest is a relatively constant number. It doesn't go up. So the pain is not felt at the rate of CPI for most taxpayers. So the number on the right, notice it says ask. That is slightly more than what we expect to get, but we are asking more just in case if there's new construction. From existing property owners, still going to be at the rate of CPI. County estimates first tax bills at 55%, and it's due March 1. It's not going to be coming at March 1 this year, just for your information. The county may delay the second payment, which we are already experiencing. The second payment normally is the tax bills go out in August, okay? And we have yet to receive any payment as of December 10th. We talked at the Finance Committee. Right now, nobody at the county can tell us, even after all our taxpayers have made payments, when will the tax bills, when will the revenues be coming to the school district? And at this stage, I want to add to the levy presentation, in addition to losing close to $800,000 for lost interest, We have to liquidate our investments, which normally are supposed to be long-term for a higher rate. And we have a plan just to liquidate enough to stay afloat and take care of our expenditures. That's not part of the levy, but this is something which we need to talk about. The county tax bills are really late. It is impacting some school districts with lower fund balance very significantly. This is my presentation. I thank the taxpayers for providing us the support for boards normally approving the levy as recommended. So this levy, I compliment the board for, even though we don't ask for more than 5%, we always hold a public hearing. We put a notice in the newspaper. If anybody has a concern, call me. And I've not received any phone calls. And nobody was here to talk about at the public hearing. So at the later stage, I've done my presentation. You will be approving or adopting the levy as a board action item. Any questions?
Nope. All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, next would be our monthly updates under superintendent reports.
All right, so looking at what's been happening in the last month or so in the district, we can talk first about communications. So we were excited. There was a story that was recently put out by our communications department highlighting the opportunity at Forest View where there is a student-created custodian club, which is really exciting. So it was a student that had this idea and put it into action, and we celebrated out on our social media news feed. So excited just to highlight those feel-good stories and very proud of our students. And then we are undergoing, as part of our communication strategic plan, looking at a new mass communications tool. So under the leadership of Rachel, we are putting together a task force with representation across the district to really look at alternatives to those kinds of tools and looking at how we can improve and enhance that communication function. So they will be meeting this month, and then we hope to have a recommendation in the spring. So you'll see presentations, discussion, all of that, and then ultimately a recommendation for a new tool. We currently use School Messenger for our broad communications, but we also have classroom-specific platforms that we use as well. So it's going to be looking at all of that and what's a more comprehensive system that we can really provide some consistency for our families and for our staff. And then we are already in full gear to prepare for our kindergarten information nights and registration. So after the break, we will be in full force putting that information out. We are really going to take a whole community-wide effort to help find all of our rising kindergartners and future 59ers. We'll have some yard signs, things like that, just to make sure that we are getting early registration happening, especially for those kindergarten students. I wanted to share that we have an opportunity to participate in a newly created EL consortium. So this is kind of a grassroots effort spearheaded by a district and then partnering with an organization called ECRA, which does a lot of data analysis in really looking at program level for multilingual learning. So we are going to participate in that consortium. I believe there's over 100 districts already signed up to participate. There'll be a kickoff for this in January. Very excited to be able to share data across the state at a programmatic level, which has not been done before and has not been something that the state itself does a lot of data analysis. So this will be an exciting opportunity. Stay tuned for more information from that. And then you've heard enough about this, but just want to point out our Cook County tax delays and the impact it's having on us. Very glad that we are really we're minimized to experiencing, costs for liquidating assets as well as loss of, interest, thank you. But other districts are not in such a position. And so it's really fortunate that we have our finances in good working order to be able to withstand this unforeseen event. From our Associate Superintendent's Department, Assessment and Accountability. So winter benchmarking is well underway. We will be finalizing pretty much for grades 1 through 8 before winter break. And then after the break, we will still have makeups as well as opening up our kindergarten assessment window. And then we will be in full gear preparing for state testing, which starts happening in March and April. So these are the ones that we just reported out on from our school report card. So IAR, our ISA, and our DLM, which is the alternative assessment for students who are identified through their IEPs as taking that alternative assessment. Professional learning is always ongoing. So we are actually, this is our year for North Cook compliance audits to take place. I believe this is every 4 years. So this is the second time that I've participated through North Cook. And this impacts our professional learning as well as you'll see in our human resources department. It's a lot of data collection, document evaluation. We have an amazing team that really makes sure we have all of our documentation in order, and always a good process to go through and make sure that we can produce those documents for the audit. And then when we come back from winter break, our students have 1 extra day on Monday, January 5th, but staff will all be back on that day for our District Institute Day, and that is area-wide. So we'll be participating in some area-wide things that we've talked about with District 214 and other local districts. And then right away that week, we also have a district PLT on January 7th, and that's going to be another opportunity for PLC plus activator collaboration as well as grade level and content area collaboration. Curriculum and instruction. So junior high schedule update. Last week in your board weekly, there was a comprehensive update on the junior high schedule and kind of our progress to date. Thank you to Ms. Savage and the team and the junior high scheduling task force committee that really got together and solicited some data midpoint through the year to really look and evaluate, highlighted the things that we're going to be looking at, what are some of our short-term goals that we want to accomplish, as well as looking long range at some future and next steps. But it is really nice to be able to focus on consistency and overall having a schedule that appears to really be meeting the needs of our students and our staff. We are also partnering with North Cook. So when you see NCISC, that's North Cook Intermediate Service Center. So as well as neighboring districts who are very interested in coming and visiting our kindergarten classrooms and exploring what we are doing with our new exploration of kindergarten reimagining. You saw in our board weekly, we had the chance to go visit some classrooms as SLT and see our purposeful play in action. So excited to share that with our neighboring districts and with North Cook, because it really is something not just needed in our district, but really needed area-wide. And then our certified staff and our leadership, they continue to participate in professional learning conferences. We are very fortunate in District 59 to have a really robust professional learning system where people can request to go to conferences. And so we have a nice rotation built into the system, and Susan and her department have done a really nice job of trying to ensure some equitable access to, you know, opportunities that bring them statewide and even out of state at conferences to participate. And one of the key pieces that we do is there's an all-state music festival that some of our music educators participate in as part of their conference. And for the first time, they're opening up junior high band students to be able to participate. So we actually have 2 students who have qualified to participate at this all-state festival. So very proud of those students. I believe it's one from Grove and one from Holmes. So we're gonna help support that initiative for the first time and really celebrate music and the fine arts for our students.
Terry, can I just ask a question about the professional learning conferences? If, you know, a few staff attend like an outside conference, do they have any opportunity to then kind of report back out?
Absolutely, that's part of what's embedded. I'll let Tom, who really kind of
Susan can
oversees
take this
that.
too. It's really part of the
would.
expectation
Sure.
that they share with their team. Fortunately, we're in a position where people often go with partners, our teammates, so they can come back and spread it through the system to their team, to their schools. So always built into the process. And we have a lot of, with our PLCs and PLTs, a chance to share that out. That work?
Awesome. All right, in human resources, we continue to focus in on our recruitment efforts, and part of our focus areas is really our student teacher pipelines, and that's through our strong partnerships that we have with universities and colleges. So really looking at, we have 10 confirmed already for spring student teaching placements, which is really a great opportunity. We look at our December grads as well as future employees of District 59. It really is a positive opportunity to recruit people that are already invested and involved in our district. And then as well as participating in many job fairs. So we have some local area ones as well as regional, and then ones that universities put on that we participate in and send staff to help recruit new teachers and new staff in District 59. Here again, you'll see the North Cook compliance audit, because there is a large aspect of that audit that impacts all of our human resource files, evaluation records, and licensure, to ensure that all of those things are in good working order. And then our new educator network, again, continues. It goes throughout the year. So really continuing our work with our mentor teams, which is a new model this year, and that ongoing professional development for our new staff. And then one of the new procedures that we implemented this year was for any of our new ESP hires to have the opportunity when they first join us to be able to job shadow for that first day instead of being kind of thrown right in. So we're really seeing some positive feedback from that, and just an opportunity to get some on-the-job training, which is always limited, especially for our ESPs. In student services, one of our highlights, and we will be talking more extensively at the end of the year when we do our student safety committee and we do that annual review of data, but we did a first look at our trimester 1 data, and we are seeing substantial decreases in our exclusionary discipline, including out-of-school suspensions and in-school suspensions. And really looking over 5 years, it has been a dramatic transformation as a system, and that can be truly attributed to so many pieces that have been intentionally put in place. So kudos to Dr. Ossel and her whole team. Kudos to our building administration and the follow through and the supports that they provide. Our SEL staff that has grown over time, our student services teams, our classroom teachers, our support staff, everyone who plays an active role in really supporting our students' needs, our intentional work around social emotional learning, all of those things, which are just great highlights. And we continue to see those things that we know impact students and their behavior move in a very positive direction, which is awesome. Our focus on attendance continues. And so part of that, Dr. Ossel coordinated with North Cook to provide some professional learning for our attendance teams. That includes building leadership as well as other staff within the building who are designated to really focus in on student attendance. So there's been a series of 3 opportunities that they've been able to participate in to really hone in and what are some strategies we can do to help ensure that students are at school every day. We also have a new youth safety and mental wellness committee with representatives across the district, again, under Dr. Ossel's leadership. And part of what they have been charged to do is to review our teletherapy services. Last year, we contracted with a service called Cartwheel. And so we are evaluating those services as well as looking at other opportunities. It is a growing need and it is a growing area for other supports to come out. We know the demand on our local resources is always really high. So that teletherapy opportunity is really an important asset to provide for our families and our students. We are very grateful for all of the many holiday initiatives and charitable donations that we continue to see. The work of our team and our community outreach team and Ashley Robertson and everyone who's really helped coordinate all of our partnerships with our outside organizations. It is amazing around here at the holidays, the number of families that are just being able to receive and enjoy the holiday experience, even if they are in need. So thank you to everyone who's contributed. I know school levels, they do many things at the schools, the district-wide, and it's just been really positive. And then Crisis Go. So Crisis Go is one of our platforms that we use for our emergency preparedness and response systems. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the next agenda item. But Crisis Go, it's already year 3 since we've implemented that. And so we will be looking at a recommendation to renew that system and evaluate it for a new renewal cycle. Last but not least, in technology and innovation. So as we discussed previously, we're able to take our out of service Chromebooks and really disperse them out to students and families in need. So that's been a positive thing, and that is currently underway and helping support families who need those extra devices. And then we're also partnering with an outside third-party organization to do a district network assessment and audit, just to see if there are areas that we can continue to focus for upgrades and improvements of our network, safety, protecting student information, et cetera. And then lastly, as we mentioned before, there was we will call it an anomaly occurring with our current devices where there was a buckle at the top of our devices. So Lenovo, Google, and CDW continue to work with our team to really investigate and discover what that is. I know way more about this than I would prefer to know. Mylar tape and Botox injections for computers, all sorts of things that they're looking at. That's not the actual term. I think I just coined that. But really looking at right now, what's a good thing is that the malfunction is actually not impeding how we're able to use the devices. It really is just like a structural thing. However, if they continue to get worse, probably not a good thing, and something that we really want to hold our vendors accountable to and ensure that we have devices that'll be able to function for the next 3.5 years. And that, I believe, is it.
So are the devices that we have, they're new, is that correct? And so we're the first group to get that, first school?
There are a few other districts out in the US and globally that have some of these devices. So we have been connecting with other deployments to see if there's similar behaviors. We are a little bit out ahead of most districts, but what we are seeing is we're moving toward an identified design flaw in the device itself. So we're working with Lenovo to fully correct that issue. We're not going to say a Botox injection, as it were, would be the solution, but any short-term solutions are only viable to get us to a long-term solution. So we're going to have these replaced, made right, and have devices that will function. We typically have a 4 cycle, so that's our expectation, that we will have devices that will last us for 4 years at minimum.
Cool. And I know my kids are enjoying them. They work great. You did an awesome presentation that I got to see a couple months ago. So
I appreciate that. We've had engineers out, we've had the team out. Our students continue to be champions for the device, to say it's a great device, but we have to have the device be able to last as long as they told us it would last. So we're really happy with the profile, form factor, the type of device. It just has to last us. So we will not accept anything less than that.
cool. And then are you going to have another one of your sessions again? You said you're going to do it.
Yeah, so we're going to look later in the winter to have another session in the north side of the district.
Okay, yeah, it was great. It was really helpful, informative, and we got a comedy show all in one too, Ben.
You know, I do my best, really, yes.
All right, the next topic is the emergency response planning.
So this was a board member request to have a discussion around looking at mobile panic alert systems. So I will invite Director Malik and Dr. Assel, who will be kind of guiding the conversation and then opening it up for board discussion. I know Lucas is the one who had originally contacted me about this topic and had some correspondence back and forth with Director Malik as well. But Lucas did provide a written background on his input. So that is provided as a printout for board members to see. And I think when we get to that point, if someone wants to read that aloud that way, we can have that as part of the discussion. But we'll start with maybe a little bit of background information from the team and go from there.
Great. Good evening. Currently in Illinois, there is pending legislation that, if enacted, would be commonly known as Alyssa's Law. Similar legislation has been passed in several states and generally mandates that schools have direct communication routes with first responders during an emergency event. Over the last years, we've redesigned and implemented a very comprehensive emergency response plan and standard response protocols in District 59, and that has included changes to our communication system. We have Crisis Go, which is available to all staff and used for emergency communication. And we also have panic buttons in our schools, which have direct communication with our first responders and automatically place the school into a lockdown. We currently believe that while legislation may change, and it's a draft right now, and we will likely see many changes to that draft, what we have in place meets the requirement of Aaron's Law and may exceed it. Mr. Malik provided a detailed summary to the board on Friday in the weekly update and certainly can share more details about any of those things if there are questions. But right now, I think it's important to know that legislation is subject to change. And typically, as with school code changes, we will see Illinois make recommendations as to the type of methods that they want utilized in schools to carry out the requirements that are enacted. And we are currently in a great position to communicate immediately and effectively with our first responders in the event of an emergency. So I'm going to open it up to questions and see if there's any clarifications we can provide for the board.
Yeah, I think maybe starting with Lucas's statement would be good if someone would like to read that.
I can read it. Okay, Vice President. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm sorry I can't be here in person tonight due to personal family reasons, but I wanted to briefly share my thoughts to get the discussion and discovery started on school safety technology. As a board, we've talked a lot about preparedness, but one of the biggest risks we still face is the time it takes to call for help during a crisis. If a staff member is separated from their phone, or if it takes too long to unlock an app, that lost time can cost lives. We need to look seriously at solutions that let staff discreetly request help immediately and safely without relying on personal devices. Teachers have voiced real concerns about being required to use their own phones for emergency alerts. Phones can lose charge, be forgotten at home, or simply not be something every employee wants to use for work. A school-owned wearable badge solves that access gap and makes sure every adult in the building can reach help instantly. Federal safety guidance, including CISA and the Partner Alliance for Safer Schools, recommends layered and redundant alert systems, and many states are now requiring them. States like Florida, New Jersey, and Texas already mandate silent panic alerts, and Illinois has pending legislation that could require them by 2026. Once that happens, prices will likely climb sharply 2 to 3 times as every district scrambles to comply. We'll be good financial stewards by investigating now. This isn't a purchasing decision, it's a discovery step. Our role is to do due diligence, evaluate credible options like our existing vendor, Crisis Go, and external vendors like RFT and other vendors in the market. Let's make sure we stay ahead of requirements rather than reacting to them later at double or triple the cost. It's about being proactive, fiscally responsible, and ensuring the safest environment we can provide for our students and staff. Thank you, and I appreciate everyone's attention to this important discussion.
Okay, so in summary, he's looking, did he say something specific he was looking at? Like, was there a specific technology or just like a general?
Badge with the button.
Yeah, that could just be worn and doesn't need, it's not a personal device. I think I'm assuming RFT is the vendor, is one of the vendors that offers this?
Correct. Yeah, that's the vendor that Mr. Chesney, indicated. This is what drove the conversation. I think was at a conference and then discovered this technology, and then brought, kind of drove the conversation about mobile panics, specifically worn on a badge. So then we looked at, then the Alyssa's Law, which is the law that's not in effect yet, which indicates Doesn't it? I think he mentioned something about silent. Lissa's law doesn't indicate anything has to be silent. It just says you have to be able to activate something mobily. Doesn't indicate that it has to be a badge. Just have to be something on your person. So again, Crisis Go currently meets that standard. Actually, I think it exceeds the standard due to we have the ability not only to activate a lockdown or a panic, but any of our protocols, as well as roster our students in the event we evacuate or lock down. So we can take accountability for our students. I think one thing to be conscious of is this law is not in effect yet, and it could change, and it's pretty vague. So without, there's some districts out there that may not be able to put something in effect like this due to funding. So there may be funding that gets brought from the state due to this, or they might create, they have a preferred vendor, or the state might create their own tool. We just don't have that information yet because nothing has moved with this bill since March. So another thing to consider is that we have not rolled out all the capabilities of Crisis Go yet. To just, throw in another device at our staff at this time. I mean, looking into it, we can definitely do that. But to proceed with throwing in another device and expect our staff to now wear this, and then in conjunction with our Crisis Go tool, our panic buttons, and now another device that they have to wear around their neck, would be something that we would have to consider before just jumping to this. We're close to 95% of our staff all have downloaded Crisis Go on their personal devices. Initially, we had a few staff members indicate that they didn't want to, download the app on their personal devices, but those were only a handful of staff members. For the most part, the vast majority of our staff has downloaded the app and have been receiving ongoing training. And I was doing the training today at Devonshire on Crisis Go, where we're continuing to learn the capabilities. And again, there is some more capabilities that the app has that we still haven't rolled out because we don't want to throw everything at our staff at one time. We want them to get competent with certain features and then move on to the next step.
So for those staff who do not want that app on their phone or who have not downloaded it, what is the alternative option than using Crisis Go?
Yeah, let me talk first about layered approaches. So in Mr. Chesney's statement, he is absolutely right. We want to take layered approaches to emergency response so that there are many ways that we're communicating, many ways that we can notify first responders, and there's no gap. So if one system fails, we have other systems that can pick up. And so I think we are all very much so in agreement, and that is what we have tried to create in District 59. Wearable panic button or duress button would be an additional layer. So I think it's important to note what we already have in place and how we would communicate in the event of an emergency. We still have in place the ability for any staff member to call 911 at any time, from desk phones, from school phones, from their personal device, and we encourage them to do so. In addition, we have an app on phones and on desktops that can be utilized to enact a lockdown immediately. We have our office staff and our PA systems. So there are lots of ways that people can alert and initiate a lockdown or any other standard response protocols. So that's what I believe Mr. Chesney is referring to as layered systems. That's what we typically call that in school safety and security. Anything you want to add to that?
No, it's not that with the mobile panics, I think, there is a place for them in schools, but it has to be something that would, again, integrate with our current systems. We don't want systems kind of competing with each other and creating more confusion, because there has been cases of these mobile panics creating more problems than solving them. Because again, a lot of these states are early on in enacting these sorts of laws. Schools are jumping really quickly to start putting these devices around staff members' necks, and false activations, along with not involving law enforcement and having the proper training for them to understand what it means when an activation goes off. Is it a lockdown? Is it just a staff member that needs support or help? So there are some challenges with them that we would just have to look into if we were to proceed with something like this.
And as far as what we have not yet utilized in the Crisis Go app, what are those things? And are we looking to roll that out? Or are we just waiting for everybody to kind of be on the same page and then we're going to move forward? Or what does that look like?
Yeah, so we started with just the emergency alerts, basically having staff members understand how to send out an alert, what it means when you receive alert, And then the next step was rostering, which was kind of the more complicated process. There's a couple steps that you got to take throughout the app to roster your students, taking accountability of the students. Then the question was brought up, well, how do we account for staff? So there's another feature that we haven't rolled out yet. It's called the staff check-in. And basically, we can send administrator, any district staff can send out something to the buildings, and staff can check in to say, hey, I'm okay. I don't need any assistance. And then the other one is the sub feature, which is basically a QR code that based at the schools subs, because we're not going to have subs, download the app, create them account because they come and go, but they can scan a QR code when they come into the school. That way they get text notifications in the event that there is some sort of alert that goes out throughout the building. So we want to make sure that we're not just doing this all at once. We're doing this kind of in a tiered approach to ensure that we're doing what we have currently in place effectively before we move on to the next thing.
I think the request here, though, is let's just do some discovery. Let's look at this a little bit more. And although I appreciate, we don't want to put too much at once, this is all safety. And something tells me that a panic button is probably not going to be that complicated. I could be wrong, but just wonder if someone, one of these vendors can do a demonstration for us to show us how it could work along with Crisis Go. Because I think that's kind of what this request is to
Definitely.
Just let's take a look. It may not be worth it, but just to say though that we don't want to put too much on our teachers. Teachers
Yeah,
would
and again,
appreciate this, and so would parents.
Yeah, and we can definitely look into it. There's a lot of companies, even companies like Crisis Go, who we work with, that make a mobile panic device. So we can look into it. And again, it touches a lot of pieces. It would touch, our technology, because something like that Mr. Chesney proposed would require involvement with our networks and our servers. And these are high cost ticket items. And there's a lot of other priorities involved with safety that we have to consider as well. So we can definitely look into it and see how it fits with some of the other priorities that we are looking at to improve the safety of our district overall, and see where it fits.
Because right now we're looking at renewing Crisis Go, right? So I assume at some point we'll see that, and then layer in this, what overlaps, what doesn't overlap, what can it add, what can't it add, what can Crisis Go do versus the company he's suggesting. And then also we're looking at isn't that what we're doing, an audit of our technology servers and stuff? So kind of might all come together to help with the comparison.
Yeah, I think if I could interject, I think the request from the administrative team is that we just run it through a process like we would with anything else, just like we do with Crisis Go. So rather than it just be like kind of a directive to get quotes and then, hey, yay or nay on this, we really need to partner with our staff on this, because, in doing research, the resistance to download an app on your phone is very similar to wearing a thing
also
around your
as
neck,
part of the
right?
process, get feedback from
we
staff.
want the opportunity just to see what are all of the aspects that we should be considering. And just like, a phone can lose charge, these are battery driven as well, and batteries die and things like that. So it's a lot that we want to just be mindful of. I think probably the thing that I would caution us most as well is that legislation can change very quickly. And I would be worried about jumping and getting something that then is not going to be compliant with legislation that could quickly change as it moves through the process. So I think being able to monitor this while we run the committee process would position us really well to be prepared if and when that needs to happen. Explore what all our options are, know what the pros and cons of each of those things are, know what is already in place, and have the support of our staff with us to be able to do all of that when the legislation comes down. And it's great because we have a safety committee, we have these things in place. We did a very similar process for Crisis Go. So I think if we can have the permission and direction from the board to pursue it through that channel, I think that would be most beneficial.
Good.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point, Dr. Bresnahan. And I know Director Malik, you also said that, with the law, there could be funding as well. So if we went and we got something and then, there's funding, we'd want it to coincide with that. So a lot of good reasons.
Another thing to consider on that point is, they can make these tools need to integrate with our dispatch centers, because it's basically a panic button that's going to our dispatch centers. Our district serves 2 dispatch centers that operate a little differently, even with the panic buttons that we currently have. So if the state was to create something, or a tool or a preferred vendor they may have something that all these dispatch centers get behind, and then that would be the preferred vendor that we're going to go with, or a statewide tool that's being used. So it's just something to consider before we jump the gun, because again, these are high cost items. This thing that's going to be a cheap item if we're going to implement it district wide. And there are other, projects as far as safety that we're looking at that also, aren't cheap. And we want to make sure that we're prioritizing where we're putting our dollars when it comes to safety. I'm not saying that this is not a priority. We can definitely look into it. I just want to make sure the board understands that we have a tool in place that works right now, but these other options that are out there.
I also heard concerns from the statement about unlocking the app, not having phones with you, or staff not wanting to use the phone. Those are all things that we can also explore with our staff and our representatives on committees to see what we're hearing. Mr. Malik, in your trainings this year, I know, so Mr. Malik has done trainings with staff at multiple schools this year where he's individually gone to grade level teams or smaller groups to train them and practice using Crisis Go. Are you seeing a large scale concern from staff with those items, with unlocking or having access to it?
No, it's actually the opposite. Staff are, with everything, you got to get buy-in. And I think initially with Crisis Go, there was a little hesitancy, obviously, because it's an app, it's foreign, the staff don't, it's another system that they have to learn. But as we go and they get more comfortable with it, they realize, okay, this is not that complicated, and they can actually they can use it. So similar to your statement, like with the panic button, as staff were trained on it and they understood it, everybody's on the same page. Eventually, we can get buy-in. I think it's just the way that we roll it out is important.
Okay, so we can ask questions about that as well for staff when we do that review.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so next we have our consent agenda. We have item 7.01 through 7.09. If I could get, first of all, does anybody need anything pulled from the consent agenda? If not, if I could get a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Moved in second. Any questions? If not, if we could have a roll call vote.
Eddie I. Johnson.
Aye.
Kitzinger.
Aye.
Notini. Aye. Chesney, absent. Bookler.
Aye.
Zach. Aye.
All right, motion passes. Next, we have action item 8.01, the adoption of the 2025 tax levy. Is that the only thing voted on? What's the ISB certificate? That's just,
it's
Okay.
just the top one.
okay. So if I could get a motion to approve the tax levy for 2025, in the amount of $111,189,000. Thank you for a round number. Which is 3.98% above the 2024 levy.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any questions? Comments? Okay, roll call vote.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kitzinger.
Aye.
Notini.
Aye.
Chesney, absent. Bookler.
Aye.
Zach.
Aye.
Eddie I.
All right, levy is adopted. Next, we have 8.02, authorizing the reduction of certain fund levels. I could get a motion to, what are we approving here? That's a lot. Wilson, can you describe what we're doing here?
So essentially what happened is, I mentioned earlier that we ask for slightly more than what we expect to get. So we make sure when we're doing the levy that the minimum amount we take in all funds and leave all the excess amount in education fund. So in case we don't get everything we ask for and we have to take a reduction, we take it out of the fund which we selected as the one which is getting all the surplus money, and that's education fund.
Got it. Okay. All right. So then I just need a motion to authorize the reduction of the specified fund levies for 2025 levy.
Make the motion. Second.
Okay, any other questions? Comments? Okay, if we could have a vote.
Kitzinger.
Aye.
Notini.
Aye.
Chesney, absent. Bookler.
Aye.
Zach.
Aye.
Eddie I. Johnson.
All right, 8.03. This is to authorize the filing of our annual financial reports. If I could get a motion to approve the authorization to file the FY25 annual financial report with ISBE.
I'll make the motion. I'll second.
Any questions?
I just would like to just make a quick comment for this report and the audit report. If the board could receive this in advance of the meeting, because we might want to look at this and ask some questions, and we still might, but I just note of reference.
Okay, any other questions?
Duly noted.
All right, if not, we have a vote.
Notini?
Aye.
Chesney, absent. Bookler?
Aye.
Zach?
Aye.
Eddie, I. Johnson?
Aye.
Zinger?
Aye.
All right, and then we talked about this one last meeting. This is to change our provider for workers' comp. So if I could get a motion to approve the workers' compensation insurance change from Willis Tower Watson Accident Fund to collective liability coverage effective Jan 1, 2026.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
And this will save us $125,000. Okay.
Right.
Oh,
Bookler?
Aye.
Zach?
Aye.
Eddie, I. Johnson?
aye.
Kitzinger?
Aye.
Notini? Aye. Chesney, absent.
Motion's passed.
Thank you, motion.
Next, look to amend the intergovernmental agreement concerning the O'Hare Noise Compatibility Commission. If I could get a motion to approve the amended IGA.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any questions, comments? Okay.
Zach?
Aye.
Eddie, I. Johnson?
Aye.
Kitzinger?
Aye.
Notini?
Aye.
Chesney, absent. Bookler?
Aye.
All right, the motion passes. And then lastly, for action items, we have approval of a donation to Salt Creek Elementary School. I can read that.
All right. Be it resolved that on the 10th day of December 2025, the Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education approves the $500 donation to Salt Creek Elementary School from Lori and David Miller to support student school lunches. Be it further resolved, the superintendent shall communicate to Lori and David Miller in writing expressing the appreciation of the members of the Board of Education and that this donation shall be listed in the official minutes of this meeting.
Great. Thank you. You have a vote, please?
I'll second.
Oh, thanks for thank you.
Eddie, I. Johnson?
Aye.
Kitzinger?
Aye.
Notini? Aye. Chesney, absent. Bookler?
Aye.
Zach?
Aye.
All right, great. Motion passes. Thank you to the Millers.
And I think Mr. Miller, I think he was our former fire chief in Elk Grove too. I think, if that's all right.
Great. Any discussion items? Okay. All right, so we can go to reports of the Board of Education. Nikki, anything?
No, we kind of talked about safety right now, but I did go to the band concert that was at Holmes with the Holmes cluster. And it was nice to hear like the kids and like how they progress over time. And there weren't too many squeaking.
Thank you. Policy Committee, I have nothing. Insurance Committee, when is that starting up again? Most Insurance Committee, do you know?
Most likely January.
Okay, great. Edward ISB, we had our joint annual conference and we have a celebrity in the audience because the new ISB Vice President is here from the Delegate Assembly. If we can get, I don't know if we can get a camera over there. Is that right, sir? All right, that's my big report. Curriculum and assessment, Ms. Zach?
I have no committee updates. I do have some updates on my adopted schools. Ridge this month, I attended the second grade Thanksgiving show. The turkeys go on strike. So congratulations to Mrs. Parrish, the music teacher at Ridge, for making 7-year-olds do anything in unison and much less such a funny musical. So congratulations. Thank you for having me. And I was able to do more of my favorite thing, which is to read to several classrooms. So thank you to Mrs. Crone and her kindergartners and Mrs. Griffin and her second. I was also able to read more in Forest View, my other adopted school this month. So thank you to Miss Rodriguez and Miss Borini and their kindergartners and Miss Babbage and Miss Dabrowski and their third graders. And I look forward to more events and more mystery reading in the new year. If there are any parents still listening, happy holidays. If you are still looking for somewhere to give, D59 Foundation is a marvelous place to give this year. Look into your child's school. As Dr. Bresnahan was saying earlier, there are so many places to give right now for the holidays, especially for our families who maybe are struggling a little bit this year. So please check that out. I think one thing that our district does beautifully is that we all lift each other up, especially during these times. So if you're looking for somewhere to give, those are great places.
Thank you. Lucas is not here, so we can go on to Ms. Notini. Any committee reports or
Sure.
updates?
We just had a finance committee meeting this evening. Thank you, Wilson. And I'd love to have another one to talk a little bit more about the audit, because it's just such a comprehensive report. And I think so if maybe we can put that on the schedule to do a finance committee, and maybe get updates on Cook County and other things. As for what's been up to, I did attend the National Junior Honor Society presentation at Holmes Junior High. Thank you so much to Dr. Londorf for including the board and acknowledging us, and big congratulations to all the students who were inducted into the Honor Society. That's about all I have done. I am planning this Friday to attend the holiday shop a vendor fair at Robert Frost evening event. That was an event I was always involved in as a parent. But now they're actually inviting outside vendors, so it's going to be like a real crowd. So going to take part in that. I'm also planning soon to take part in the Mount Prospect Neighbors Help for the Holidays program that's supporting, I believe, 30 families, most of which are from District 59. And I promise I am trying to get to Friendship Junior High for my adopted school and to Salt Creek. I'm looking forward to in the new year to have some things on the schedule.
Thank you. Ryan? anything?
Yeah, sure. So like many of you, I had a chance to go to the school board convention, and I want to give a shout out to Motion. So I was talking with the architect that designed our preschool, which is beautiful. It's wonderful. And the partner at the architectural firm gave me his card, for more work. And I said, no, you have to give that to Motion. And then when Motion came, I introduced him to the architect, explained that he was the one that did the preschool, and Motion, and then the architect said, oh yeah, I want to chat with you, Motion. And Motion goes, oh, we'll be talking. I want to know what happened to our HVAC system, why it's not working. So we need to talk. So Motion, I really appreciate your expertise. I appreciate you advocating for our district. I appreciate everything that you've done. Thank you to Michelle and TR for leading that committee to look at candidates and bring them to us. So I really hope he can be here along if that's possible. And again, we appreciate everything, your leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. Nothing? All right. All right, then we can move on to, did I miss anybody? No. Our informational items, just kind of our emergency school closing procedures.
This was a request from Mr. Buckler to discuss. So I'm open to your questions or comments.
No, I know it's a difficult decision. I know you guys make it with a group of superintendents for whether to close the schools or not. My dad is a former administrator, and I remember as a kid, he would say if it was a snowy day and they kept the schools open, people would call and they would say, well, why didn't you close the schools? And if the school was closed, people would call and say, well, why didn't you open the school? So I know it's a difficult decision. I just had a couple of things. I know that from the website that it's 30 degrees is what the neighboring districts, negative 30 degrees wind chill for whether to close the school or not. Correct? I believe it's negative 30 wind chill.
I would.
No, that is. I'm pretty sure. So we had a day where it was negative 25 out, which is pretty cold. And I know at Elk Grove High School, the fire alarm went off. So the kids had to evacuate. I've got an older student, and the fire department, recognizing it was cold, put the kids in the gym. So that got me a little bit worried. What if that were to happen at our preschool on a really cold day like that? So where it was, negative 25 degrees. And then the day earlier this year, when we switched to remote learning, there was no snow around until the afternoon. So, my thinking is if there's no snow on the ground, maybe, go to school. But if it's really cold, I just worry about what could happen if there was an emergency and the kids had to evacuate and it's that cold. So that was just hoping to take that feedback back. to the committee when you meet?
Yeah, it's not really a committee. It's that we meet as superintendents and
Right.
we monitor. So we're part of the National Weather Service group that we get reports and we get to participate in webinars. So when there is any type of weather, so it is sustained wind chills of 30 degrees Fahrenheit or colder, or actual temperatures of negative 15 degrees Fahrenheit or colder that are sustained specifically arrival and dismissal times. So we do rely heavily on the National Weather Service, and then it is a collective conversation. It is an absolute judgment call, one that superintendents make. So absolutely appreciate always the feedback that we get, and we take a lot of input and care. And it's never easy to make it, and it's one of those not everyone's ever going to be happy with whatever decision is made, but student safety is always the first thing that we consider.
And then because we do e-learning, some schools don't have that in place.
Some districts do not have
So they would have to
e-learning.
make that.
Correct.
We don't, so I'm sure that pushes them to like want to go to school versus we can pivot.
And
Yeah, it really varies.
Kindergarten and first grade do take home their devices daily? Okay.
Yeah, we've already worked with our all of our schools through our teaching and learning department to ensure that people are prepared. And it doesn't mean that if there's a catastrophic event, we may not be able to have e-learning. If there's massive power outages, there's a lot of factors that whether or not we close the schools and then whether or not we actually invoke e-learning, but at least we have that as an opportunity. Not every district approves that. And we've actually, I think over my 5 years here, we have not had to close schools too often, but when we have, we've had very positive feedback from our community about access to continued learning, which I think has been positive.
Any other questions? Good. All right, if not, anything?
I just want to say happy birthday to Maribel today. I'm sorry you had to be here at board meeting.
Oh, come on, Maribel. Happy birthday. Darn, I feel bad. Yeah, we're early for you. There you go. All right, if I could get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, meeting's adjourned.